Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to every single day to celebrate the men and women who are working so hard to make Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, we have a great guest today, but before we go to our guest, I just want to share with you, at the beginning of the previous iteration of this show, COSU, now the Ricky Matthews Show, I had a lot of inspiration from a friend of mine. Her name is Stacy Waldrop. Her husband Terry and I have hunted and fished together for many years. We're just real good friends. We went to school together. And Stacy is just such an inspiration. But she would post these wonderful statements from time to time, and then as I shared them, other people started sending stuff to me. So I get a lot of stuff from different people. I'll try to share as much of that as I can. But every now and then I got to come back to Stacy because she is just a terrific person. And here's one that she posted this past Sunday, and I thought it was just terrific. Let's see, it comes from Quotes Cafe. Don't wait for things to get easier, simpler, or better. Life will always be complicated. Look for small opportunities for happiness in the moment you are in right now. Otherwise, you might run out of time. We can't often choose our circumstances, but we can better control our reactions and emotions. Choose small moments of joy. I talk about this all the time on the show, but, as we're still in January, lots of New Year's resolutions as people focus to improve some situation related to them. But one thing that I constantly talk about, and probably I need to tap into my guests more around this, about how are they doing on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of living in the moment? How good are they doing in terms of choosing the small moments of joy that are in their lives? Or are they moving too fast? Listen, as a former CEO, let me tell you, I know what it's like to move fast, and which is one of the reasons why in 2016 we set a course for me to retire. And it took about a year and 6 months for us to put the transition plan in place. I was so lucky to work for the Newhouse family for Advanced Condé Nast later in my career, and what an incredible family to work for. In fact, I enjoy staying in touch with them today. But we put a plan in place because I'd gotten to a point where I could retire, and I said that if I ever reached that point, and I'm moving a little bit too fast to enjoy the moments, especially with grandkids coming and all that, I was going to go in another direction. And I did. And I never looked back, to be honest with you. But boy, the opportunity to be in retirement, to enjoy those special moments, are really important. The story, about 4 years after I retired, I had an opportunity to do this show. I thought about it for a while, and I've really enjoyed doing it. As I've said many times, it gives me the opportunity to connect with the community. And I've enjoyed that. That's the one thing I missed about being a publisher. I don't miss P&L responsibility. I don't miss HR issues. I don't miss any of that. But I really, really, really miss connecting. And so the shows, and Cammie and Kyle and I have done over 900 conversations since we started this show. And it's been a real blessing. And it's been a chance for me to share things from people like Stacy Waldrop that can that hopefully inspire you as we all try to figure out how to choose those small moments of joy in our lives and not pass them by, to learn to better live in the moment. So I thought that quote from Quotes Cafe was terrific, and I wanted to share it with you today. So now let's shift gears. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I've had many conversations with my friend, the mayor of Gulfport, Billy Hughes. We've worked together in the community in so many iterations of our lives. And Jace Payne, has joined me many times. But and then, of course, Leonard Papania, who was the chief administrative officer for the city. He's retired now. So now I'm had the pleasure of having the new CAO, the chief administrative officer for the city of Gulfport, Wayne Miller, and I look forward to telling his story. Wayne, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. Listen, I kind of had the opportunity to see you while I had my opening comments about choosing the small moments of joy in our lives, but I saw you smile a couple of times. You strike me as somebody who doesn't lose the joy.
We have one life, and we need to live it to our fullest. And that's what I try to do. I've got a wonderful family, wonderful work family, and wonderful friends. And, we just need to live life to its fullest, because we never know when we're going to not have that opportunity to keep going.
Yeah. Hey, listen, your wife, Jennifer, and you have two kids, Chloe and Colin, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
But I could tell in the way you wrote about them that family is really, really important to you. And someone asked me when I had left the Sun Herald, that's another decision that was hard to make. Took me months to decide to leave the Sun Herald. But when I left the Sun Herald to go to work for Advanced Condé Nast, we had dual residency. So initially, we kept a house here in the coast, and we kept a house in Mobile. And then when I went to New Orleans, the same scenario, lived in the warehouse district and had a house here in Gulfport. And they asked me, how moving fast like that, how did you do it? I said, well, I never got sucked into the vortex of thinking that I was a big shot. I never, all the trappings that come with being a CEO for a media company, they're there. But I just never got infatuated with that. I always put Ann first. I always put my kids first. And I always worked to try to find that balance. Ann was incredibly supportive of my career. You have to have a strong wife when you're a CEO of a company, as you're learning, as you will soon learn in the role that you're in now. But, that was important to me. I've always put family first. And, when you put family first, you can find a lot of success in your life. If you don't put family first, somewhere down the road, you're going to be a miserable person, most likely. And I know people are hearing this and they can relate to what I'm saying. That's for sure. But anyway, congratulations for you for being able to sort of find that balance. Hey, listen, before we go too deep into our conversation today, for people who have not heard my conversations with chief administrative officers for other states, for other cities, that is, and who have not heard Leonard and I talk before in the past, why don't you we'll tell people what the chief administrative officer role is in the city of Gulfport, but then we're going to kind of freeze up for a second, and we're going to come back to your path and what brought you into that position. But tell us a little bit more about what your elevator speech is for your job.
Absolutely. So, as chief administrative officer, it's a lot different than what I was currently doing as the director of public works and city engineer, because now, I'm overseeing all departments of the city, which, when I was on the other side of the public works engineering, I had 24 employees and then a lot of contract. But on this side, it's, over 600 employees with a lot of contract employees. So, it is different, but, it's mainly just overseeing the city and helping the mayor go through and further the goals that he has set forth for the city. So we kind of look at it as, I'll do my best to run the city, and then he handles, I guess, the marketing of the city, letting everybody know how good Gulfport is, because Mayor Hughes is phenomenal at doing that. He loves Gulfport. I love Gulfport. He and I think, are going to make a great team. We have been a great team over the years when I was, on the public works engineering side. And I'm just really looking forward to this opportunity that I have to work with him at a different level to see what we can do to keep progressing Gulfport further. And, Leonard Papania did a great job at that, and so did Dr. John Kelly prior to him. So I've got two big sets of shoes to follow when it comes to the job that I'm currently in with Gulfport, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, Dr. John Kelly, man. Whew. Man, he stood the test of time and helped bridge the gap between 3 administrations. Goodness gracious. The aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, working with Brent Warr, who I have tremendous respect for, and then working with George Schlogel. What an icon he was. What a legacy he leaves behind in coastal Mississippi. And then Billy. There was a steady force there for so many years. So to be able to call on, and of course, Leonard was there while John was there. Yep. And his long history in law enforcement, but and I might add his work in the community, especially in areas like the homeless community, et cetera, very important to him. But yeah, you've got some big shoes to fill there, my friend.
Yes, sir. I was actually messing with Leonard the other day. I saw him, and I kind of told him the same thing about the shoes. And luckily, I wear a size 15, so I was kind of giving him a hard time about it. I said, "Man, you can put your shoe inside my shoe."
Well, there's a lot of truth to that, but at the same time, you can take all that they did well, and you can put your fingerprints on it. You can be the next John Kelly, standing the test of time over numerous administrations. So That's what you hope. You want. I think the change in political leadership is a reality. You're going to have mayors. You're going to have city councilmen that are going to come and go. But if you can have a chief administrative officer who sort of keeps, kind of the glue that keeps it all together, keeps the culture right, keeps the city, being focused on economic development and all the things that you guys do. That helps everybody. It helps everybody. When there's a lot of change in that position, that's actually not a good thing. Hey, listen, when we come back on the other side, we're going to dive deep into Wayne Miller's past. Where did he grow up? Where did he go to school? How did he decide to go into civil engineering? There's a lot to talk about, but I look forward to learning more. I know you are as well when we come back on the other side. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Ricky Matthews Show with my new friend, Wayne Miller, who's the Chief Administrative Officer for the city of Gulfport. I love diving deep into the various cities of coastal Mississippi. I like to talk to fire chiefs and police chiefs and administrative officers and mayors. And from time to time, we'll even have a council person on. So it's really good because, a lot of, I used to say about politics, all politics is local. And that is definitely true when you're at the city level. Hey, so anyway, Wayne, I appreciate you joining me today. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in the big town of Saucier.
Wow. So you're from the country.
That's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's not the country anymore, though, is it?
It seems like it's not. You still have some roads up there that, just going back to where my dad lives, it's not like it was when I was a kid. You've got houses growing up everywhere, but it's still home.
Yeah. Well, that's special. When did you know you went to University of South Alabama? When did you know you wanted to do civil engineering?
I would probably say I was into my first year of college and, going through all the basic classes, and I was kind of sitting back thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And I wanted something that allowed me to be inside and outside, but also something that was prestige, and so as I was looking through the curriculums, kind of looking at universities in our area, civil engineering just kind of hit, it's like, man, that gives me the opportunity to deal with inside stuff, outside stuff. I had a basic concept of some construction stuff, and it gave me the opportunity to further that. And South Alabama is not that far away, right on the other side of the state line. So I looked into their curriculum, and that's what I decided to go with.
South Alabama, for people who have not been there, they can't appreciate just how significant that school has become. I had the honor of working with the previous president of South Alabama, now deceased, when I led the oil recovery efforts for Governor Riley after the oil spill. And that was just a volunteer position. We developed a plan, had over 1,000 people involved in the effort, but he led the healthcare sector of the discussion. And man, you're talking about commitments to build the stadium and all the improvements they've made in South Alabama. It's a true competitor. And I'm a Southern Miss graduate, and I think about Southern Miss, from a football point of view, for example. And as South Alabama became more relevant in the football world, a lot of the recruits that otherwise probably would have gone to Southern Miss. Now, in the day of NIL, I don't know how that would play out today, but they went to South Alabama, and you built a pretty good football team. I'm assuming you still pay a close attention to the school, huh?
I do, yes, sir. For years I had season tickets, went over for football, occasional baseball game, but I do follow it, not as much as I want to, but they got a lot going on. The campus itself, when I was there in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then you go there now, and it's completely different. It's amazing what happens when you bring football in, the amount of money that comes with it. So they've definitely spruced up the campus and made it more inviting to, potential students.
Yeah, it's a rather large campus with a lot of students. Incidentally, Jamie Miller, who's the CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council, we actually hired him to work with us, to work on the healthcare team. And he worked with the president of South Alabama, who was the chair of that committee. he actually worked with him. So Jamie Miller has that connection. It's interesting. It's a small world, man. And of course, this well, being in the positions that you've been in public works. What goes around comes around. People who burn bridges amaze me because it's a really small world, isn't it?
It is. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you got your degree in civil engineering, and when did you land in public works? Because, let me say real quick. I'll say something about public works. It ain't always sexy, but as we learned after Hurricane Katrina, having the opportunity to work with Governor Haley Barbour on the Governor's Commission for Recovery, Rebuilding, and Renewal, we came to appreciate how important infrastructure really is to the future growth of a city. And not only did we have to rebuild infrastructure, but we had to also rebuild it in a way that would enable other things to happen. So as Kenny Holloway, the mayor of Ocean Springs, said, once he said, it definitely ain't sexy, but if you don't do it, you're not going to have an economic development effort. You came to know that early in your career, didn't you?
Yes, sir, I did. So I came to the city in March of 2009. I was working on the private sector doing subdivision design at the time, and then a position came open. What's kind of funny about that is I actually interviewed with the city in June of 2006 as well, and almost came to the city 3 years earlier, and something come up on the professional side, and I had another opportunity, and I went that route. And now I wish I would have come to the city earlier, but I did get some experience that I did not have that I think has helped me when I did make it to the city. But I came in as a staff engineer level, and then within a year, I moved up to the assistant city engineer. And then when Mayor Hughes took office, he and I had a meeting, and at that time, engineering and public works were one department, and he had decided to separate the two, and then asked me if I wanted to be his director of public works. So I took that, and we just really moved public works even farther than what it was. And I'll tell you, public works was in great shape with the previous leadership. So we were able to just move some stuff along, and being separate like that, where I was able to concentrate on public works instead of, like prior to that, the guy that was over public works was also over engineering. So it kind of, having to deal with two different departments. And then, so we did that. And then I think it was around 2020, 2021, we decided to take the departments and put them back together. When we had a retirement in the on the city side, the director of engineering. So then I became public works and engineering, which is like it was previously, and then just continued to run that. We've done a lot of great things between the departments. Just, public works and engineering in Gulfport has always had great leadership. Yeah. And so you can see that just based off of the projects that get done and how the city's running on those sides. And then, we get to where we're at now, Leonard Papania, which, 33 years, I think it was, decided to go ahead and retire. And then that position became available, the chief administrative officer. And I can tell you, I'm not going to lie to you, 3 months ago, never crossed my mind. And then, as the position became open and, I started doing some talking, my wife and I were talking about it, even before I even considered, having that conversation with Mayor Hughes. And she told me one thing that really kind of stuck. She used to work at the power company, and she said one thing they tell you at the power company is if a position above yours comes available, you always take that opportunity and try to make yourself better and go for it. And I actually told the mayor that when he and I were having a discussion about it. And so everything went well. And as you can see, I'm where I am now and working along Mayor Hughes to just make the city better.
Hey, listen, it's interesting. I think, if you're thinking about the experience you got in civil engineering before joining before joining the city, you mentioned that it was good to get that experience. I think it was excellent to get that experience. I mean, sometimes you got to work a little bit in the trenches. You got to get deep into it. And a lot of learnings. You probably look back on it now and realize, man, was that important time. You're cutting your teeth. You're really understanding what a civil engineer really does. You're practicing, and you're getting better. Because I have a son who's a lawyer, and what he says about law school is it teaches you how to think, but not until you actually do it do you actually become a lawyer. And the same thing's true of an engineer, an architect. Not until you actually get out in the world and start actually drawing it all up in the finite detail that is required do you really earn your stripes. I mean, it's true, isn't it?
It really is. I'll tell you, when I was wrapping up my final semester at South Alabama, I was working for a firm in Hattiesburg because I lived in Hattiesburg at the time. With my wife and I had just recently gotten married. And, I was working at this firm, and they knew I was, one class out from being a graduate engineer. And I did not get to do engineering work for my first year there. They threw me on a survey crew. And they said, as a civil engineer, you need to understand the survey aspect of engineering before you can be an engineer, because as an engineer in the office, you ask a survey crew, hey, I need this. You may not know the proper terminology to ask the survey crew chief what you're needing, but if you've done that work, you know exactly what you're needing at that point, and you can relay that message more clearly to the survey crew as to what you're needing, so you can go ahead and design that project.
Well, I have a brother-in-law who was a civil engineer, and I remember one summer, I worked on a survey crew, and that's grueling work. You do those kind of jobs though, because I enjoy being in the outdoors and whatever, but that's grueling work because it's very specific, and it was before there was all this technology, so there was a lot of manual labor associated with it. But I look back on those jobs and I think about it this way, that I learned what I didn't want to do. That's what those jobs are about. That's for sure.
That's right.
Hey, listen, when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with the Chief Administrative Officer, Wayne Miller, for the city of Gulfport. And we're going to talk about, it's interesting because you think about Public Works and the American Public Works Association. Gulfport's gained some specific designation that, when you do accreditations are important because you go in and you have to learn aspects of the work that maybe you didn't know before, and it just broadens your institutional knowledge, and it can ultimately make you better at what you do. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we actually shift some gears and talk about some projects they're literally working on as we speak. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I have my friend, the Chief Administrative Officer for the city of Gulfport, Wayne Miller. And when we went to break, we were just talking about the path that he went through to get where he is today. I have actually an interesting headline for this part of the conversation that I want to share. And it's simply that when you see that under your leadership, the Gulfport Public Works Department got these accreditations, this really important accreditation, and you are also recognized by the Mississippi State Personnel Board for the work that you did as well. What I wonder about, and we'll come back to this in a minute. I'm gonna give you what I wonder about. I'm gonna tell you a quick story, and then we'll come back to you. But I wonder who your mentor was. Who was it that was helping you think about this stuff? Because in my case, I was at the Sun Herald. I look back, and Roland Weeks, who was the president publisher of the Sun Herald, Roland saw things in me that I didn't see in myself and really mentored me. He sent me to some of the best schools in the nation, man. If I give you the list, you would be blown away with where all I went. He also encouraged me to get involved in, for example, I was named the director of operations at the Sun Herald in my 20s. I look back on that, and that was in the 80s. You just didn't do that back then, but he did. You hear more young people getting opportunities today, but back in those days, you really didn't hear about it that much. But he really encouraged me. For example, we were building a new building and installing a new press, a really high-tech press for a newspaper our size. It was millions of dollars of investment that we were making. He encouraged me to get involved in the users group. It was Rockwell International is the company, and the Goss Press is the press that we had. A long story short, I got super involved in the organization. I ended up becoming the national president of the organization. And along the way, we realized that we had never incorporated that would give the board of directors protection. It actually got incorporated in Gulfport, of all places. But the reason I was involved is because Roland really encouraged me to be involved. He encouraged me to go sort of on this lifelong journey of learning. And so that's how I learned. That's how I learned, getting involved in these different organizations, seeking accreditations, et cetera, et cetera. You did that too. And where did that just come from, a dream that you had, or did someone along the way mentor you and encourage you to go all out?
So, that's a good question. So I can tell you that, when I first came to the city, we had tried to go through the accreditation process. But one of those times was during that nasty word, Hurricane Katrina. And so everybody knows what happened during that time. And then the process was tried again in, the 2009 timeframe. And then, you had the economy wasn't looking too good. And so you wanted to kind of do other things with what money and time you had. So around, 2014, 2015, that's something we wanted to do. And I can tell you the people prior to us had really set good background for us in getting the processes and everything in place that we needed to do. So it was more of a paperwork thing for us at that point, just putting everything together, making sure we had all the correct policies, that we followed the policies, that we had proper documentation for the policies and practices. So, we had we brought in our team together and we explained to them what we were going to do. And we had a complete buy-in from our department. We had buy-in from the city administration and city council. So that right there gave us the go ahead and, hey, let's do this. So we had a good internal meeting and we set some deadlines. We went through and we met those deadlines. And so in late 2016, we became the 118th agency in the United States to become accredited through the APWA, which is American Public Works Association. And I can tell you right now, I think there's still maybe in 178, 179 agencies out of 40,000 cities and towns throughout the country that have that designation.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. I think the only one in Mississippi. So,
yes,
but let me drill down a little bit further. Who were your mentors as you kind of came through your career?
So, I'll just talk about on the Gulfport side. I came in and Chris Raymond, who you probably remember, he was the director of engineering and public works for a while. He and I hit it off from day one. We had a great working relationship, became great friends, still are to the day. And some of these things was, some stuff that he actually put in place as the director of public works that was going to make Gulfport better. And we still use those policies and programs and, stuff in place that he did. So I would say with my career at Gulfport, he was a huge mentor for me. And, especially because I was coming in from the outside, I knew subdivisions. That's what I did. I was a subdivision designer. And then I knew nothing about municipal government or on that aspect. So, he kind of took me in. And we, like I said, we worked really good together. Even when we split and I became to the public works side and he was on the engineering side, he and I still managed to work, as good as we could together to keep progressing forward. So I would say him, on the Gulfport side. And then, obviously mentor, you've got to say your wife. She's always pushed me and wanted me to be the best that I can. And it's been a sacrifice for her. She's had to be taxi, she's had to be chef, she's had to be dad sometimes, when I'm not available I'm working, and she has taken that role and knocked it out of the park. And like you mentioned earlier, we do have two kids. I've got a 19-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old boy, and just couldn't be more proud of what they've become. And that's because they've had mama, who's also pushed me, has also pushed them.
Well, that's really cool. So, okay, so you come into this role as the chief administrative officer. I often say that life's a journey of discovery, and the more we learn, the more we better learn how much you don't know. You probably come into this job is thinking, "Gosh, I got a lot to sort of comprehend rapidly." How's that going for you?
It's going. I think one advantage that I have is the fact that, I have been with the city I'll start my 15th year in March. So I've been here. I know, a lot of the people at the city, all, directors, city council. I came in around the same time that the majority of our city councilmen did back in 2009. I built great relationships with them. And I think that is, an advantage that I have. But also coming from the public works and engineering side, the fact that I have the knowledge of all of our, capital projects that we're getting, ready to start on and have been working on different phases of, and hopefully some of these are actually going to be breaking ground this year. So we're really excited about that. And that's just, of all the many things I do, that's with my new position, that's one thing that I think I was able to bring with me is just my knowledge of the engineering and public works side over to the chief administrative side.
Hey, listen, one of the things, I think I mentioned this in a conversation with Billy Hughes along the way, the mayor of Gulfport, for people who don't know the name. Travis Sweatman and I went up to Charlotte, North Carolina once to meet with a planner. His name is Michael Gallus, incidentally. We actually hired him to work with us in Alabama on the oil recovery planning effort. But Michael was a planner, and when Travis and I sat down, we looked at the Gulf Coast, and the first thing he did is he's looking at this big map. He stands up at the map, and he says, okay, you have a port. Then he says, okay, you've got rail. Then he says, you've got interstate highway, and he starts kind of drawing, and you've got a coastal community, and he said, man, you got a lot to work with. I mean, a lot to work with. You think about the role the port has played in Gulfport's history, and then you think about the emergence of the blue economy and what's happening there. I think that the city was incredibly resilient after Hurricane Katrina, building out a sort of a new vision for the harbor, the Barksdale Pavilion, finally getting clarity about Jones Park, which for so many years had been a lack of clarity and a little bit of rub there about what the Jones family really wanted and what the city and maybe others might want. But we got clarity of all those things, the emergence of the aquarium. We'll talk about the tram, the emergence of the tram and how that's important to the city, et cetera. But then you think about mixed use and what's happening downtown and more restaurants opening and more people living there and big projects planned and residential development and whatever. When you think about the city of Gulfport, it has a lot going for itself. It has a foundation for success. That's got to excite you in your work.
It does. We are second largest city in the state, but you look at Highway 49 and I-10, that's the second busiest intersection in the state of Mississippi. I mean, if you're going pretty much anywhere in the southern United States of America, you're driving through Gulfport, Mississippi to get there. And so we have a lot of visitors. We have a lot of development coming. Like you mentioned, restaurants. We have those hotels. We have all that's coming to South Mississippi, to Gulfport. And so we're just going to continue to grow and, just make this a place to come. We're tourists. People want to come here. And so we want to make sure that we do stuff that entices them to keep doing so.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. On the other side, we're gonna get the latest on the tram bridge that I mentioned a few minutes ago. We'll talk about a couple of other projects. All the legislative sessions underway. By the way, thinking about that busy intersection, I was at the area around Sam's recently, just like we had to do at Sangani Boulevard in D'Iberville. Boy, I can't wait for a resolution to that traffic mess up right there. But it's just part of growing. You got to go in there and solve those problems. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Wayne Miller, the Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Gulfport. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. We're having a conversation with my new friend, Wayne Miller, the Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Gulfport. We'll have him back again to talk about specific projects as they come up. But this is kind of the big introductory show. It gives citizens, not just in Gulfport, but across the state, an opportunity to see what makes cities like Gulfport tick. Hey, when we went to break, boys, around Sam's right now, that's a bit of a traffic nightmare. But when you have success, when there's tremendous development, I mean, always traffic is part of the problem, and you got to find solutions to it. And you guys have been thinking about that for a long time, haven't you?
Yes, sir. We've had a project on the books for quite a while now. It was a Landon Road widening project. So we're actually in the final engineering phase, and it's more just getting a couple of permits that will allow us to widen Landon Road from Highway 49 over to Coleman Road, which is just on the west side of Sam's. That project will definitely, I'm not going to say definite because we know how that goes, but that project should start construction hopefully sometime in the summer. And we're really excited about it because it's definitely going to help people navigate Old 49, Sam's, Daniel Boulevard into Highway 49 better.
It won't be fun while it's happening, but it's a good solution. Same thing for prime outlets. You got this cluster that takes place there. But again, this is part of success. You got to go in there and solve these problems.
Absolutely.
We don't all get to lay out all of our infrastructure and then hope that all the possible economic development opportunity happens. Oftentimes, economic development will happen, and then sometimes you just have to have infrastructure react to it. Man, I tell you, the tram bridge opening is going to happen soon. That's such a dynamically designed thing that's going to connect parking and the aquarium to Jones Park. That's an exciting development, isn't it?
It really is. It's going to set off, or it is setting off, our downtown region. If you haven't seen it, it is definitely worth the drive by. I believe they have the letters up now. As you're driving through, you can see where it says Gulfport on the tram itself, which is right over the median of Highway 90. But it's definitely a safe way to move people from north to south and south to north over Highway 90 without having to go through the traditional crosswalks along the highway itself. And it's a beautiful view once you get up there and you walk across it. So really excited about getting that open. I actually should be here pretty soon. They're working on some final punch list items, but the project itself is beautiful. And it definitely works well and connects with the aquarium and the downtown region.
Yeah, I think so too. As far as infrastructure, there's a lot going on, but I will mention before we move over to the legislative session, the Dido Road upgrades that are about to happen.
Yes, sir. We were able to secure funding with MDOT, Mississippi Department of Transportation, through Gulf Regional Planning Commission, and we will be working on the first section that we have funded. Will be from 605 west, about a quarter mile, and then that will allow us to get that area widened up, allow for the intersection improvements, but also intersection improvements for North Park, which comes in from the south, which is where the car dealers are, and gives better access into Dido Road. And then, we're always looking for more funding to continue this thing west. But that's the section that will start first. It'll be about a quarter mile west from 605 to the west.
What's your main legislative priorities? It's great to have a mayor that was a senator, not only a senator, but a leader in the Senate, understands the inner workings of the Senate like nobody's business. But what's on top of your list?
So we've got a couple of things. We've got we've got the wastewater treatment plant, which, we were able to secure some funding through ARPA and then, some DEQ funding to go with that. So we've got some of those projects that are going to be breaking ground, hopefully, should be this year. But the main goal is to take the south plant, which is over there by the golf course, by the airport, turn that into a large lift station, and then push that to the north plant, which is up there by the Harrison County Jail, and expand that to where we can, kind of, instead of having two, have one. The south one just needs some work, and it's it's more cost effective to move everything north. So that's going to be our big push. We've got a potential elevated structure we want to put down in the harbor, which is around the old White Cap building down there. We want to do something like that, which would allow for, potential restaurant or whatnot. Definitely something we're trying to push this year. And then, we've got some other projects. We want to push some soccer complexes throughout the city. We want to go, try to get some more funding for some of these road projects. But we've got a lot going on, and the legislatures have been very, very nice to us, over recent years, and we're very fortunate to have them. We've got great relationships with them, and so we do work with them and provide information to them as we go along, and just hoping they can find some more money to send down here to Gulfport for us.
What's interesting is that, I have the lieutenant governor on the show pretty regularly. He also joins me on my outdoor show. He understands, man. I tell you, and I'm sure the new speaker's there too. We in fact, we're working to get the new speaker plan for a show here soon as well. But when Delbert's on the show, man, you're talking about someone who gets infrastructure. He really understands the role that infrastructure can and will play to help Mississippi reach its potential. And so you've got a willing partner in that conversation, I know. And of course, again, when you have a mayor that's been there, done that in the legislature, boy, he really does get where the energy needs to be. That's for sure. Hey, listen, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend. I hope you all the success. Get Jace to reach out to me if you have anything you want to share with folks. I'll be willing to be here for you.
That sounds good. I appreciate you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk with you.
You bet. This has been the Chief Administrative Officer for the city of Gulfport, Wayne Miller. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed getting to know him better. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.